Hello and welcome to The Spill, your daily pop culture fix. I'm Em Burnham.
And I'm Ksenia Lukic.
Today we are talking about kind of breaking news. It happened overnight.
Yeah.
But we have a lot to say on this.
And we're all very excited in the office about this one. It's not something that I realized everybody loved, but everyone I've spoken to is now telling me how much of a fan they are.
I am very, very excited, but I'm also a little bit conflicted. So I'm going to get into this. Firstly, we should probably tell you the news.
Yes.
So the news is it was announced that Jennifer Aniston, she is going to star and executive produce the new Apple TV series, which is based on Jennette McCurdy's best-selling memoir, I'm Glad My Mum Died. Literally the best title of any book ever. So it's going to be a 10-episode dramedy, and it's going to be similar to the memoir. So it's going to follow an 18-year-old actress who we don't know who will be playing her yet, who stars in a hit kids show. And a big plot point of that is going to be the intertwining nature of her very narcissistic mother, which is who Aniston will be playing.
So Jennette is actually writing and show running this particular series alongside Ari Katcher. I'm really excited about this. Now, I read the memoir. We're going to talk a little bit about the book a little bit later, but it's a really fantastically done memoir. And I'm really excited to see how they're going to turn this into a series. We don't really know anything more about who might play it.
Yeah.
But you were dropping a little bit of a hint. Why are you conflicted?
Immediately when I saw the news, I was really excited because if you haven't read the memoir, we 100% encourage you to. It's one of the books that I always recommend to everyone. Also listening to the audio version. Yeah. Because Jennette does voice it herself.
The great thing about the audiobook as well, it's only 6.5 hours. So it's actually not that long. The book is relatively easy to get through. So it's not you don't really have to invest that much time into it.
It's absolutely gut-wrenching, like some of the stuff she talks about in the memoir, but it's written so well that you don't, like with some memoirs I feel like that are so sad and depressing, you feel like you need to take a holiday afterwards. And I'm like, that it's really nice if you're able to, because it's really sucks for the person who went through all of that. But the way, I think she has such beautiful storytelling, and because she is an actor, the audio version of the memoir is just so pleasing to hear because she does it just so well.
She's got a really wonderful sense of humor. It's very sardonic. So the whole book is dark comedy. Again, with the audiobook version of it, the way that she talks, she injects this humor that the I'm Glad My Mum Died, even the cover of the book where she's holding up the urn.
Yeah.
And like kind of smiling awkwardly. It's such the way that she does the audiobook is, the tone is really dry, sarcastic, funny, but then so dark.
Yeah, it's very typical of the humor that a lot of those Nickelodeon stars have now, like Josh Peck and stuff. So I could see the like Nickelodeon side of her come out in like her natural humor now. The thing I'm conflicted on is the choice of Jennifer Aniston to play her mum. And that's not saying because I don't like Jennifer Aniston. I love Jennifer Aniston as an actor, but I think she would always historically play a very likable character. I do remember she was on this one movie called Dumpling on Netflix, which is a brilliant movie, where she does play a troubled mum with narcissistic tendencies. But even in that movie, you kind of come around to her and you understand why she is the way she is. And just from reading Jennette's memoir, her mum is not a person that you ever come around with. And I'm interested to see, because I do feel like it will be a challenging role for Aniston, because I'm interested to see if she can play a role where people just straight up don't like.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I've always, and I think Jennette McCurdy is like, I don't like my mum. She doesn't have any redeeming qualities. However, you know, I've spoken to psychiatrists and they said even though they can't be certain because they haven't spoken to her because she's passed away now, they said even though that from what I've told them about her, they think she had narcissistic personality disorder, bipolar disorder. So she was clearly very troubled. Jennette McCurdy does say, you know, she doesn't want to use mental health as an excuse. But I think that there needs to be nuance in the character, because if we just hate her, there's no where for it to go. Like, characters need to have that nuance. And I think Jennifer Aniston will be able to, even though we won't like her by the end, she will still have that charm because she said her mum was charming.
Yeah, she was very charming. And I think that was a big part of how Jennette actually got into acting, right? Her mum was like the catalyst for all of that, like pushing her into that roles, and charming producers, even producers that Jennette herself didn't like and things like that, which the memoir goes deep into it. But how did you actually get into the memoir?
So I came into Jennette's story. I listened to the Louis Theroux podcast, which is called the Louis Theroux podcast. And back in 2022, he did an interview with Jennette McCurdy when she was doing the book tour for this particular book. So this book was released in August of 22, really dark comedy. Anyway, I listened to the Louis Theroux podcast and I was like, this sounds so fascinating. Went straight to the audiobook, devoured it within like 2 nights. I think I listened to it in 2 nights. By the time I was walking or doing the cooking or like going to work or whatever, I was finished. And I just found it so fascinating. Some of the stories that she tells are, those really classic. It's interesting. She talks a lot about being a child star.
Yeah.
She talks a lot about how she doesn't know any child star that's gone through it completely unscathed, which I think is a really interesting point, that no matter what, the whole nature of being a child star is in itself damaging. One of the stories that I found the most distressing was when she talked about the very first time that she had a calorie deficit. Her mum told her what a calorie deficit was. You know how old she was?
I can't, like 5 or something, right?
11 years old. She started to feel like her little budding breasts.
That's right.
She was scared she had cancer. So she went to her mum and her mum said, oh, no, darling, those are your boobs. She said that she was so aware of the fact that her mum wanted her to be young because she was an older actor who looked younger, which was really good for producers because it means they could work longer hours. They can, they better behaved.
Yeah.
But that was so tied up in her identity. So at the age of 11, she started calorie restricting. So it's really interesting that she didn't realize that her mum was abusive until after her mum died.
Yeah, I remember that so specifically in the memoir, and also like the calorie deficit thing that happened at such a young age was the catalyst for her, like what she says, her lifelong eating disorder up until that point. And it was only, I think, her therapist was the person that kind of made her realize what was happening and that she was being abused, and helped her get out of that. But I think what was also really poignant in the whole memoir was the love she had for her mum, and how her mum, she felt like, was the one person that she could go to for everything and tell everything to, and yet she always had this pull that something just wasn't right, and that
some really inappropriate behavior between her mother and her. And there was a couple of stories about her showering her until she was 18 years old, like really inappropriate. And then her mother was so obsessed, and I think obsessed is probably the right word, so obsessed with her that she went on a holiday with her boyfriend.
Yeah, she wasn't allowed to have boyfriends.
She wasn't allowed to have boyfriends. She didn't tell her mum. She told her mum that she was going with a gay friend. She goes, a paparazzo took a photo of her.
Yeah, and her mum saw it.
And her mum saw it, and her mum said, you've caused my cancer to come back. You're going to make me sick.
Yeah.
Like, that level of manipulation is a very narcissistic trait, but that level of manipulation from her mother is just, it's so horrific to think that this poor girl had to go through all of this.
And that was the other thing. Like, her mum was sick, which she mentions in the book, with cancer. And it was the fear that McCurdy had on not only the health issues within her family, but also she was like one of the sole providers for her family. Like, her not getting a job didn't mean that she just didn't get a job, but it meant that like her family couldn't eat. It meant like her family could not have a home. And it was the pressure that she had that I felt like she also talked in relation with other co-stars, that in terms of like when she was growing up, she would be in like all these child shows, but a lot of her other co-stars was like, this was like a bonus on everything else that they had. And what I really liked about this memoir is that she was able to lean on certain relationships. And I remember she would talk about Miranda Cosgrove, who was her co-star and the lead actor in iCarly, which was like one of my favorite shows growing up.
I never watched it.
Oh my God. It was so... Did you ever watch Drake and Josh?
I did watch Drake and Josh because I was, again, I'm a little bit older than you. So like I was Amanda's show, Drake and Josh, and then I probably outgrew Nickelodeon. And then I think just as I was outgrowing it, that's when iCarly started.
Yeah, I was in the middle. So Drake and Josh was my bread and butter. Like,
did you watch the Amanda show?
Yes.
Yeah.
But like probably towards the end before it finished. But I loved the Amanda show. And from the Amanda show, they went to Drake and Josh. Like they would pick out stars that were like the best of each show and just continue them on.
They just doing spin-offs.
Yeah. So Drake Bell was like a big star in the Amanda show. So they did Drake and Josh. Miranda Cosgrove was a big star in Drake and Josh. So they did iCarly. And then Jennette McCurdy was a big star in iCarly, so they did Sam and Cat with Ariana Grande, and that's kind of like a method that Nickelodeon continues to do till this day. iCarly was like huge for me. Probably towards the end I'd outgrown it, but my sister's generation, she's about 6 years younger than me, iCarly was her favorite childhood show. And I think what was really interesting about hearing her relationships with Miranda Cosgrove and Ariana Grande on Sam and Cat was that she was very jealous, which I'm sure any child star would be, of their lives. And she would say that Miranda Cosgrove was the friend that I really needed. Like Miranda Cosgrove was so close with her. A bit different with Ariana Grande. With Ariana Grande, she had this jealousy that Ariana was becoming this massive pop star, and also had allowance to not have to be in certain episodes. Like she specifically mentioned this one episode, which I remember from watching Sam and Cat, where Cat was stuck in a cardboard box for the whole episode, and Jennette said that she had to act with essentially an empty cardboard box, literally acting with a brick wall, because Ariana Grande was actually off touring.
Yeah, and
or performing at the MTVs.
Yeah, it's interesting because she was talking a little bit about how the Nickelodeon higher ups gave Ariana Grande a lot of allowances that she didn't get. So there was a little bit of jealousy and like, which I think is natural in that kind of environment. What I do want to talk about, because we've kind of touched on it a little bit, is some of these child stars and talking about how these child stars, a lot of them have not been able to come out unscathed.
So true.
And that key line Jennette says in the Louis Theroux interview, she's like, I've yet to see one that has come out unscathed.
Which is really interesting, because I assume that, as an audience member, I think I've seen child stars that have come out unscathed, but I think Jennette McCurdy is an example that you don't see everything, because she, in my opinion, came out unscathed from being a child actor. Like, I hadn't seen her in anything since Nickelodeon days, but in my head, because she hasn't done something outrageous or something that was like media worthy, I just assumed she was good. And it was only upon reading the memoir did you realize as a reader that she was suffering in silence that whole like period of her life during Nickelodeon, where you thought she was like so on top of the game, showed such well face that like you never ever thought that there was something wrong.
But I think that that's so key to the whole, like, there is a difference between, you know, the Amanda Bynes level crash out, which people can't look away from. And I think that, you know, obviously we play into that a lot and it is problematic. But, you know, I was such a huge fan of Amanda Bynes, incredibly talented comedian, actress, when she was in her younger years on Nickelodeon, and then to see what's happened to her now, that's been a very public, I'm going to say quote unquote public crash out.
Like Britney Spears.
Like Britney Spears, you know, 2007 Britney, like there was that whole joke of like, at least I made it through 2007 better than Britney. Like, and then you've got people like Demi Lovato who also had more public crash outs. But I think what's interesting is when we talk about the child actors who maybe did come through unscathed, people like Emma Watson.
Oh, yeah. Emma Watson's a good one.
She's a good one. But I don't doubt that she was affected by, she's an incredibly intelligent woman, but I don't doubt she was affected by some of the things that happened to her during the Harry Potter series.
I think after reading this memoir in particular, which is why I'm hoping when they do make it into the television series, they don't skate over her experience as a child actor and just talk about the mum. That's what I get really scared of when they do make like books that everyone loves into television or movies, because you can't have everything in it because it is a long piece of content. And I have a feeling, because of the announcement of Jennifer Aniston being this massive A-list celebrity acting as a mum, that there's no way that they will pull from the mum storyline to give onus on the her experience as being a child actor as a standalone.
Well, it's interesting because they announced Jennifer Aniston first rather than the person playing Jennette McCurdy.
Yeah, they haven't announced anyone else in the cast.
But it's funny that you say that they don't have time, but the series is going to be 10 one-hour episodes. The audiobook's only 6.5 hours.
So do you think they will?
So I
go
think
into
they'll
it?
have
Oh,
enough
I
time
hope so.
they'll have enough time to get into those.
Because
into the
I want to
minutiae
see,
of
I
it.
want to see who will play the Ariana Grande, who will play the Miranda Cosgrove. I want to see like those interactions on my screen, because I think those interactions, like you said about Emma Watson, we obviously haven't seen anything in the public eye, but from reading this memoir and hearing about all the stuff that she had to go through as a child actor, not even in relation with what her mum was putting her through, just seems like such a wild thing for any child to go through.
I think the key thing here is being the breadwinner of your family as a child is innately wrong.
Yeah.
That a child shouldn't have the pressure on them to provide for their family and there be the reason that there's not food on the table. And that's a lot of the times where we see the issue, because that puts so much pressure on a child. And I think now there are a lot more protections in place, particularly in California. They have child acting laws. They've just come out with all of those influencer laws in California. So any child who is on like YouTube family shows and stuff,
Oh, yeah.
they have to be a portion of that money has to be put in a trust for the child.
Yeah, which I think is the same for like actors in TV. So I think the rules that have been in place for child actors who are in TV shows and movies are now being transitioned across to just children who appear in like YouTube videos and TikToks and things like that.
So that's those like child influencers, those family channels and stuff. It's great that it's expanding into that, because I think that that's really important. But it was really interesting to me how, that level of pressure to be the breadwinner of your family is just, that is going to screw anybody up.
Yeah.
You're a child.
I know.
You're not meant to worry about that. And she was like, I was so innately aware of the fact that I was the one making money for our family. Not just her and her mum, her brother, her dad, who isn't her real dad.
Yeah, I would suggest listening to it, because she's so well read, and the way she reads her own words and the way she does her mum's accent is just so well done.
Yeah, it's great. And it's a really easy listen.
We don't know much about the new show, but I think it is very exciting. I'm really interested to see how Jennifer Aniston plays this role, because it is like such an interesting role to play.
So go out and check it out. It's called I'm Glad My Mum Died. You can either do an audiobook of it or read it, but definitely well worth it.
Mamma Mia Studios are styled with furniture from Fenton & Fenton. Visit fentonandfenton.com.au. We'll be back here in your podcast feed tomorrow for Weekend Watch. Bye.
Bye.